Imagine £1 billion a year recruitment business that started from one desk under the stairs. In today's episode, I welcome Ged Mason OBE, who talks to us about his Morson journey, which culminated in him selling the majority stake in the business in February 2024. Enjoy listening. Ged Mason OBE. Welcome, Ged.
Welcome, Matt. Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
No problem. It's absolute pleasure. So we were just chatting before we started recording there, Ged. It's you're a few months shy of 40 years at
40
working
years.
at Morson. So thinking back to 1986, did you think you'd be a few months shy of 4 decades working for the same firm?
Gosh, looking back then, a young lad I was. You knew you had the future ahead of you, obviously. But no, I didn't set any goals to say, I want to work till I'm 40. I think I was brought up around the generation where, the word retirement was affixed to 60, 65.
Yeah.
I think it changed, didn't it, during the course. So, yeah, no, it was just one step forward, working on a day-to-day basis, really.
And to give the listeners some context, so back 40 years ago, what sort of numbers were Morson doing, and how does that compare to sort of today? So like things like people out there in recruitment at the moment that are watching this, like headcount and GP and stuff. Can you remember what it was like back then compared to what it is now?
Yeah, my father had moved into his second building he purchased in Salford Eccles there, and there was literally 10 people. I can name them all, the directors, Brian Hurt, Brian Scott, Derek Cowie, Pauline, a head of payroll. So there was 10 employees, just over. And I think turnover-wise, we were probably 86, around 20 million revenue.
Okay. And bringing that to sort of today's sort of numbers, so headcount, turnover, what was it? How does that compare with?
Yeah, it's grown
then?
Significantly, not just by myself, obviously, but to the team, and circa now heading towards just over 1.6 million revenues. And EBIT, obviously is around 4%.
Okay, so would that be? Did you say 1 billion? Did you say?
Yeah,
1 billion there. So quite incredible. Not just 40 years for yourself personally, but I think one of the first times we met, you talked about getting the business to £1 billion of turnover, and that wasn't all smooth sailing, presumably. You were on a very upward trajectory when we first met, but things like COVID presumably were significant challenges in reaching that.
Yeah, it's £1 billion, and it's vanity, isn't it? Vanity number, but it was a target. Everyone should have targets in business. It's not just revenue as your target, but that was a milestone that I thought, playing with the big boys in the the Adbacks, the Manpowers, were all over £1 billion. So it was that was a driver, but not the be and end all target, to be honest. Probably more down to which clients we could win in the sectors we were operating. That was the thrill, and naturally you grow your business lines as you won more contracts. And one of the things one of the first out of the blocks was MSPs. Back in the day, it was very fragmented supply chains, and I went to America actually with a colleague to see what the Americans were doing, thinking they were far ahead of in the labour market, the contingent workforce, and they were somewhat. They had vendor on, call them VOPs, vendor on premises, but they didn't have the software, and I was intrigued to know why they wouldn't have the software to drive the flow, the processes, and so, not finding the software solution, I came back and we mapped it out, and developed our own Vencuro, which won us an awful lot of. I think Johnson Controls was our first MSP, and we went from strength to strength, and that really elevated us and promoted us into the turnover. Obviously, leapt considerably where we were, controlling the requirements coming from customers, the talent pool and stuff.
Okay, and again, for the benefit of the listeners, might be hearing that for the first time. So MSP is managed service provider.
Yeah, so, apologies, I'm using my own jargon now.
As we're going through this series, I'm learning loads of stuff as well, even though I've been around recruitment for a long time, albeit one step removed on the payroll side. So managed service providers contingent labour supply is where somebody has a requirement for a job on a 2-week or 6-month basis, and you guys would have filled that initially. MSP is about every recruitment requirement they might have, stepping in and being that vendor and making sure that all that's dealt with. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, it's a single source, isn't it? Where you control the supply chain, you ensure payments. You got to treat the suppliers not. I hate the word second tier. They're a collaborative partner, but there's a select few. We're all on KPIs and managed on that basis for the customer's benefit to deliver the service. So requirements come through, they are then sent out to the supply chain and managed coming through, and CVs, date and time stamped, and payment terms and POs cover, so it all interlinks within the company's clients' systems as well.
And so in terms of turnover, that you go from having like one of those requirements, you might get one, and another agency might get another. All of a sudden, the full turnover comes through you. So that was where you sort of
it bumps up your vanity a bit, but it's similar to how your business was run really. Unless you act as an agent and display it in your accounts that manner, it does flows through to your turnover. Yes, correct.
Yeah. Does so that those sorts of £1 billion sort of turnover a company, that encouraged the Canadian PE firm Onyx Partners to take a stake in Morson some 16 months ago. So taking us back to February 24, could you tell the listeners how does it happen that an enduring recruitment business based in Salford that has over the years grown through diversification, organic growth, acquisitions as well. So how does it happen that a Canadian PE firm on the other side of the world, how do those two people come together, those two entities come together? How does that deal like that come about? And then what's the mechanics of what the deal looks like?
Yeah, we did have a transaction last year. Seems a lot longer ago now, but how did it all occur? I think we were carrying on business as normal for a number of years. At some point, I made other directors in the business shareholders, which was good. People who rode with me for the future. And I hit sort of a crossroads, if I may say, where I was turning 60, father had passed, business was growing, we'd done an awful lot of acquisitions, I think about 17, 18 acquisitions, multi-brand. We ventured out because we were quite UK-centric. We'd opened offices in the US, Canada, and acquired in Australia. So we wanted to be a bit more global, but to go global, it's a tough act. Anyone who's going on that journey, it's never to be underestimated. To conquer the US, there's more of a graveyard full of disaster stories than success stories. You're dealing with cultures, you're dealing with legislation, compliance, and so the crossroads for me was what's next? What's next? Is it now I've done surpassed the billion? Is it 2 billion? Is it 3 billion? That wasn't driving me. It was probably more the global influence aspect. When my father had the business in the 70s, 80s, he was more global than we were now. Small in the UK, but offices all over the world, chasing the oil and gas market. Some of our competitors had done a very good job in expanding over in all the countries following oil and gas, and we'd chosen our STEM subject matters, so we were heavily focused on where the government spend was. And so the crossroad point for me was, what do we do next? And considered, well, do I wanted to sell? Whilst I was 60, that wasn't driving me either. It was just something in the back of my head. Not getting any younger, would like to take something off the table, as I'm sure owners do when they're reflecting. And the big ingredient as well was there's been a lot of people have rode with me and supported the growth, come up through the ranks and grown up with basically in the business. And for me, that was a driver to make they were secure for their lives, for all the effort, for all the sacrifices we'd all made. So I thought, do a trade sale? No, I think it was still a life in me there to kick on and drive the business. So what's next? Well, I could have considered an employee buyout, but the legislation at the time was looking like it was going to change, the government changes, etc. So fireside chats with PE houses, which I know people say, well, venture capitals and have their own opinion of, but if you find the right partner in the venture capital, and by the way, we've been down this road before, a crossroad. When my father was around, we sold to Barclays in 1990. So I'd had experience of VCs, just a fast track. We sold to them, but 5 years on, when they wanted to sell, it wasn't the right time. And we ended up buying it back personally and gearing up. And they floated after that. So I've done a few deals over my time, really. And then took it private off the PLC. But this time around, a fireside chat. So we knew our way around. And for anyone considering that, it is an option. And it gives you still, if you choose the right partner, I feel like I'm still in control. And I've got Onyx, who are Canadian-based, who have been really good. It's important, and I think, to have those fireside chats with a few VCs to understand the culture of what they're about, as much as your due diligence is done on yourself. It should be done on who you're thinking to sell to. And I think people miss out on that, and I think it's important you do go to that effort and beauty parade, and not just leave it to advisors to bring along, which they do very well, but to ensure you feel comfortable with them. So we have a very strong culture in our business that's been built up over the years. Even though we have sold, floated, and been in the institution world, we are still a family business. And I know that's words are cheap saying a family business, but we are. And we live by our cultures. I don't have to bang the table. It happens naturally. The charitable care things we do, it all comes natural to my staff. So that's always great when that happens. So back to the VC route, it was the right time. Beauty parade, fireside chats, and a Canadian company believed in it and courted us. It didn't happen instantly. I think that was the benefit, is to get to know them, not just rush into a process. When I did know I wanted to consider this, I brought in the key members of staff to inform, and we didn't want to, and I've never done, is sort of bowl the company, paint the picture of trying to make the company for sale. I think we carried on business as normal. We weren't dressing it up, is the word I'm looking for. And I think so many companies who go to market think they need to dress it up and make cuts and make the profit because they're going to get a multiple on. I think that's, at the end of the day, there is in the processing Adbacks, and I think that allows you to do things of that nature without having to do it forcefully. And VCs do like to see the company continuing to trade as it would normally, really.
Yeah, an Adback, Ged, would be something that you're doing today that a buyer could look at and say, well, potentially if I acquired the company, I wouldn't need that going forward. So they would add it back, and you would still get the benefit of that.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything that may be one-off cost as well.
Yeah.
So it's viewed in that nature. Yeah. So, yeah, we courted. I always use it as a term, like we courted with Onyx. I went to Canada, saw some of the other directors that were there, met the team that were going to be on the board, wined and dined and see them in the true colours, and eventually, we got engaged, and then we got married. I say engaged because on our process we had to go through a stage where we had to get government approval because by nature of some of our work activity. So when we actually completed, I actually signed. I was in Bahrain. One of my horses was running and fortunately won. But I signed in Bahrain, which was weird, really. And then it was we had to wait. We filed for the government approval, and the transaction happened at the end of January, I think it happened, yeah.
Okay, January 24.
That was from sort of November, yeah.
Okay. So the time between you making that decision that you were looking for investment and you decided that it wasn't going to be a trade sale, you decided that VC or PE would be the way to go. What was the sort of time frame between making that decision and getting to January 24? How long did it take?
Well, that's where you mentioned before COVID hit, so that delayed us by a year from the initial thought. Okay. So 2 years, I would say it was a 2-year journey.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you mentioned there that you feel that some businesses will dress their companies up for review to sale. What, in your opinion, having been a buyer as well as a significant buyer, I think you said 17 acquisitions over that period, over a significant period of time. What makes a company attractive then to a potential acquirer? What are the things that you're looking for if you're buying a company? And what do you think that that these guys saw in Morson as well?
I think coming into a market that's a busy market, not so much saturated, but very competitive, you have to what's the standouts? And I think it's important to emphasise what are your standouts and USPs, as the word used. And I come back to the word I used before. Culture is a strong word. How do you describe it is difficult. But I think Onyx were looking for that ingredient and has backed me, and to this day, having worked with them now for over 14 months, they support everything I do in that domain. So the cultural aspect, because your DD, your due diligence, will naturally go through a process. So and don't be frightened of not having everything. Having a few rough edges in your business. I think it's important to have growth is what is ultimately the key that they're looking for as well. What's the growth potential? So your pipeline is important to position that. Spend time on that pipeline. Explaining your business in a simple way is always good. The more complex it is, the more divisions you have. It's not a bad thing, because actually they see that as a consolidator thereafter, and there's got to be things that they see they can improve in a VC. So as goes back to my point, it doesn't have to be dressed for sale, because the rough edges, they will see if it requires consolidation in back office or investment in technology, or they'll look for the angles on that front. So don't be frightened of thinking, I'm not ready yet.
And so do you think there's an element of leaving something in it for them? So I suppose a business that's reached its full potential will be attractive to some people, but also it doesn't leave anywhere for them to go with. So I suppose what you're saying is you're leaving something in the pot for them to they look at it and go, okay, well, there's a bit more I can squeeze out of that by doing, say, technology or consolidation or something of that nature.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you've gone the VC route, you're leaving skin in the game. So therefore, you're carrying on the business anyway. So the more the potential is to grow it. Is what's your focus is. Again, you've got another round, another role really if he dies. So you secure your family's future and that, and you secure lots of colleagues' futures. But then you've got another go at it. So it does give you an injection to keep on growing and along the lines, or fix or invest, and that's where the VCs are good as well. They invest and look for those areas to help you along, to take your sales up as well.
And so you mentioned keeping an eye on the news. Obviously, knowing that you were coming in this morning, I can see there's been plenty of activity. I think America and such like. You've been making acquisitions or making forays into foreign fields since the takeover, since the investment, I should say.
Yes, yeah. Canada, we've obviously got a base in Toronto, but we're weaker in the US. We have a base in Houston, New York. So we've acquired PTS Advantage, an American based in California, Orange County, and then we obviously have offices in Houston, and we'll combine those businesses, and Florida, of all places. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My children are too old now for Disneyland. It would have been a perk a few years ago, but they've grown up now. But now, they've a base in Orlando. Good, strong management team is what we were looking for. Good back office, solid business, been a family business. We actually tracked them when my father was with us. He saw them first, actually, when he was over in California. Met with them. Excuse me, I'm hoarse today because I was singing along. It was Glastonbury last night. Yeah. And Rod Stewart, one of my faves, was on. So I was doing a bit of a sing-along.
At home, were you there?
I was at home. I didn't go down, no. So, so that's why I'm hoarse. So, the family business in PTS, my father had been to see. I went to see, made an offer 10 years ago. Didn't happen. And I heard they were coming back to market. And even my CEO went out. So 3 visits. And when they came to market, I knew they were a solid business. We'd done our homework. We'd courted with them as well. And the culture was aligned. And about the management team, yeah, I think it was important to do that transaction. So, yeah, we've got a good, solid, approaching 200 million business revenues in America now, and Canada and Australia. And we'll further strengthen out there through acquisition in different sectors.
And so, when a PE firm invests in this manner, just to pick up on a few of the things you said, typically the management team stays. Certainly you stay. So typically all the management team stays and rolls over any equity they might have into. They'll take some money off the table. You said, roll some money over, and then the idea then is presumably the PE firm is doing it for one intention, that is to grow the business and have another transaction at some point in the future. Is that typically how it works?
Yeah, typically, and different VCs will have different tenures as to when they want to exit again. Some are in it for more long term, with the targets that they want to achieve. Others, a shorter term. Some of them are VC a turnaround. They'll buy a turnaround, distressed businesses as well. So it licorice all sorts, yeah. So usually I would say it's not fixed that the management team, certainly the senior founders, stay. They do sometimes, and a good thing they look for, and which I've done over the years and needed to do as well, was look for the succession. What's life after the current director structure? So we've always looked for recruiting from within as our preference and first choice, and so yeah, they back the management team usually coming through, and the founders either stay or exit. Depends on that's why it's an attractive route for some people.
And so life in the last 16 months then, so you've perhaps got I don't want to say this, Ged, but you've perhaps got a boss for the first time in quite a long time, have you? Somebody to report to, I should say. Is that fair?
Yeah, that at the back of the mind there's an ultimately there's a more significant shareholder now in the business, although I'm still got just shy of 40% still with management team. So yeah, it's not strange, because when we were public company on AIM, you're reporting to your shareholders then.
Okay.
Prior to that, Barclays Bank was invested. And then prior to that, I had my old fella, my father. So although he made me a 50-50 partner in 1992, so we felt like partners rather than a boss. But respect to my dad, he was the boss, and do miss him. But we should see that where it's at now. But yeah, it's you do have another boss, and I think really though, it's. They don't know, usually the VCs really don't know your business inside out as intimately. So they're there to have a fresh pair of lens to look through, give advice, consult, is the way I see them, rather than the banging the table. And that said, if things go pear-shaped, it's through your actions, you're accountable. But no, it's been a good journey for us, and it's been good to have a partner when we hit that crossroad, what's next, to support us on our global expansion. So choosing the right VCs, I think, is a message to any listener, and make sure you do your DD on them.
Okay, so you've done a bit. You mentioned before targets. So you'd reached $1 billion through those acquisitions, through diversification, through the organic growth of the business. Sounds like the acquisitions are really ramping up now with the new guys on board as well. What's the next target then? Is it $2 billion? Is that the next target for you?
Less on the monetary value, more on the strengthening, having a solid base, and see if we could grow and emulate what we've done in the UK to get to a market leading position. So we operate in all the STEM subject matter in where the government spend is, I've mentioned. So aerospace and defence, right, and now is where our biggest growth areas is. We've obviously expanded into rail, we're in renewables, energy, nuclear renaissance. So we're in the right. The business has always followed where infrastructure government spend is. So it's unfinished business. So less of the target of a $2 billion. It's more to grow and have that services around those sectors in America. So we will be building up, aerospace defence in America, Canada and Australia naturally, with the joint ventures they're doing with the UK governments to government in those locations, and investment in defence through spend has gone up thanks to Trump's
I was going to say, yeah, you
twist in the arm.
Got the right president, I think, haven't you, for defence.
So
spending.
we're in the right space there, yeah. So no, beefing up Australia and America and Canada. And that's not just to have jollies to visit, by the way.
Well, I did wonder when you said Florida whether that was whether that office was created specifically for some holidays out there. But no, it's that's based to PTS, isn't it?
That's where they're in the power utilities, renewables. It's a good team who are based there, and it's a good location. Yeah.
Very good. Well, Ged, I want to talk about significant others, because you mentioned your father, Jerry, a few times now. So he founded the business in 1969.
Yeah.
Engineering recruitment at that point. What was it?
Yeah.
Did he ever talk to you about what it was like back then and what his sort of intentions were? Why did he get into recruitment in the first place?
Quick story, and it's interesting how it links back to Canada. So he was an engineer, working in the UK on assignments, and we emigrated, wanted to go to Canada. He'd visited, and we took a family, so we left Liverpool on a ship, and we got hit actually by a hurricane. Knocked us 3 days late from New York. I always remember putting a life jacket on, looking at these waves, and then confined to the cabin, and my mother saying a rosary beads. It was that bad.
Oh, really?
Father was sent to go and get some milk, because we had my sister, he was a young baby, and he never came back because he found I think in every ship there's called the pig and whistle. So he came back with the milk with a few drinks on it. But anyway, cut long story short, I went to Canada, in Toronto, worked, but after a while work dried up, ended up in Detroit, working on assignment on a caravan park we lived, and then Martin Luther King got assassinated, and my mother then was riots and curfews going on in Detroit, as you can imagine, and my mother decided it was time to go home, the boss. So we came home, and my father bought a house not far from his parents in Salford and put a desk under the staircase, and that's where we started in '69. And with a focus to, he was an engineer, so he went back supporting process energy, and being in the northwest of England was quite a central hub for. We had Trafford Park, one of the largest industrial parks, on our doorstep. We had investment, the nuclear fusions and everything was going on in the hub, and reprocessing plant, Sellafield. We had British Aerospace sites around the northwest of England. So it was a hub of engineering, so no wonder we took off and expanded, yeah.
Fantastic. And seeing you sort of dad sort of starting from a desk, a bit like Harry Potter, isn't it? A desk under the stairs, doing recruitment, so placing other engineers that he knew, presumably in roles that he'd identified. How did that make you feel thinking back then? Was that your motivation to get into what you've done? How did you feel back then?
Yeah, it just flipped me back there, Matt, and it was nice. I always had the buzz. I think if you don't have the buzz of doing something, I was asked what would I have done if I weren't following my father's footsteps in business. I would have probably wanted to have been an architect. Somewhat having a property company has allowed me to fulfil that as well. But I was always intrigued. I was nosy and loved what my dad did, and looked up to him, and so probably wanted to emulate him. He always looked smart and travelled a lot. Eventually, when the business got going, but it was drilled into us how to answer the phone. If it rang, it was good morning or good afternoon or good evening, the Morson group, how can I help you? And if my father wasn't there, we'd take a message for Mr. Mason. And I think my mum answered it at weekends. She was the cleaner. She'd say, the cleaner, I'll leave a message. Yeah. So, and then all my summer holidays, really, instead of hanging around on the streets, Dad encouraged me to come in the office, even just doing basic filing. He didn't pay me though. Fish and chips it was at lunchtime, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the buzz. I enjoyed listening and watching, learning. It was, I was serving my apprenticeship then, which I'm still serving my apprenticeship today. But it's exciting times seeing a business grow from where it has to, where our headquarters now, which we own and develop, 80,000 square foot building. I remember stood outside it, my dad, and say, we actually both hugged each other and said, "Where's next?" So yeah, looking forward to the future. Exciting, but always with one tip of the hat to my father, the Grandmaster.
Fantastic.
I won't be here without him.
Brilliant. Well, so taking that through then, so significant others, you're a partner and you've got 2 sons?
2 boys, yeah.
2 boys, yeah.
George, my eldest, who's nearly 30, and Matthew, yeah.
And in terms of the journey that you've been on then, so you were there with your dad. He was a real inspiration for you. You can clearly see it. You mentioned him sort of several times before I even asked you about him. It's a real inspiration for you. How was life like for as you sort of took over the reins and you took the business from where it was to where it's today? What was your relationship like with your partner and your sons? How was that affected by all the work you were putting in to make Morson what it is today?
Yeah, it was funny working with your father, and a lot of listeners may have come from a family business, and some people say, "Oh, I couldn't work with him." I say, "Try it." And we had a pact if ever we had some heated moments, don't get me wrong, we had different views, and we had a pact that one of us would get up and make a coffee or walk around the car park, come back and forget about the subject matter we were talking about and move on. And that worked, and it was healthy. We had some heated board meetings, and some of the directors thought, "Oh gosh, it's the end." And then we'd give a hug and go out for a pint after it. So yeah, I loved that interaction with me family, my dad particularly. And my sons, I would love naturally. We probably wouldn't be talking about VCs or selling if I had my sons in the business. Unfortunately, they're not joining the business. George has got autistic on the spectrum, so. But Matt's involved in the business, and he's coming along well. It's a big responsibility, and I think it just needs. Sometimes you need a different head on it. Now it's the size of business it is. But yeah, that's the only thing about, if you say what's your bucket list now going forward, it is to spend more time with the family. We all make sacrifices. You've done that, Matt. Everyone who runs a business knows that, and you have to be successful. If you just want to have that 9-to-5 type lifestyle, then your sort of business will reflect that on the size and where the growth. You have to lead by example. The world has changed. People do work smarter. The use of tech as well. You can work from lots of ways, but I think you've still got to be the voice at the front line, in the trenches, knowing how your business ticks, leading by example and looking for the future and the strategic thinking, and then bringing people along with you. You can't do that sat in your back bedroom or in your lounge or your conservatory. It's got to be in the trenches, and you've got to have people around you who are like-minded. And I've had a fantastic team, and they're the ones that the succession more than my sons will take this business forward, and I'm excited by that. That really that will thrill me to see it grow. Otherwise, I don't feel I've left the business in the right manner if I haven't made sure it's got a good management team to take it forward and take it to another level as well.
You mentioned the team around you several times today, Ged, and when you're making a decision, then is there sort of an inner circle that helps you make those decisions? You mentioned ultimately it's your responsibility. It's a big responsibility, but it is yours, and you're happy to take that on. Have you got an inner circle? Is there people outside of work that you go to your dad's not around anymore? Do you go to outside of work to bounce some things off them? Being in a position that you've been in for so long now is such a huge enterprise to manage. How do you go about making those decisions?
Yeah, I think it's important when you've got a business to seek counsel, have good people around you, solid, who are intellectually stimulated a little bit more and bounce off, who's wore the t-shirts, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the same people in the same business sectors. It's nice to have a fresh approach. I've been blessed to have my chairman, Kevin Philbin, who since 40 years ago I've been involved with, who acted on the other side of the table when we did a deal, and both father and I looked at each other and said, he's got to come on our side of the fence afterwards.
He's a lawyer, Kevin, isn't it?
Kevin, one of Manchester's finest, over the years, and hence he's now our chairman and has been our chairman. I thought it was a fitting tribute for him to be chairman after my father's passing. But no, and colleagues in the business, that you bounce off them. What's you've got to listen to them. Always got to listen to them. They're in the trenches. They know what's going on as well. What is the customer looking? How can we improve our services? So I always revert back internally, and then I'm fortunate. I've got some great friendship group. Been really lucky in that department, and I'm not showing off here to have people like Peter Doan, Peninsula, Betfred, and Ron Wood, who built up a big card shop empire. Sir Alex Ferguson. I've got good people around me. That it's a nice little business club we have, and some interesting chats over dinner. And then listening to customers. That connection is important to have a good counsel around in the board, a good solid board as well, which I've been lucky to have.
Yeah, I guess there won't be many people I ask who they go for advice when it's Alex Ferguson and Peter Doan. I'm not sure there'll be many people who can answer in that way, Joe. But yeah, it's I guess for me, looking back, I was always quite. I used to keep things into myself fairly. Certainly in the early days, in the Pinnacle days, I would very much keep things to myself because I kind of felt like going to people and asking for advice was a bit of a weakness. And didn't want to be seen because I was quite young at the time. Also thought if I start asking for people for help, that people are going to see a perceived weakness, a lack of strength, a lack of leadership. Over the years, I realised that once you get to a certain size, you're making decisions of such significance that affect so many people. To not go and speak to people that's a weakness because actually other people's opinion. Sometimes you can't see what other people are seeing, and it's really important to take all those opinions on board to make a balanced decision. And I think over the years I became better at making decisions by bringing more people into the fold, having initially thought it was kind of all down to me.
Yeah, I think you're right, Matt. I think you tend to think I know best, and you're making those decisions without really thinking it from another angle. And I've seen a lot of people who make those decisions without sort of courting thoughts and ideas and before they jump in, So yeah, I think it is important to surround yourself with people you can chat to, even if it's your father-in-law or your parents. So yeah, it's good to bounce off. Always good to bounce off before you jump in, especially if it's major decisions you're taking. And you're quite right. It's not just for you; it's the livelihoods you're protecting when you run a business, isn't it? So it's important to seek counsel.
And life then, sort of post the transaction, like you say, you're still significantly involved, running a million miles an hour still by the sound of it. Has anything changed for you? Is anything sort of slightly easier than it was before because you've got another partner involved?
The element of the business side of things, I would say M&A activities, where Paul, very lucky to have Paul, my FD, CFO, joined more or less the same year as myself. So it felt a bit of a two-man team, with advisors, but having our sort of Onyx on board have helped on M&A in identifying research, looking at due diligence, looking at the process, tightening up. So that's been a peg up. And a very useful team. But has been business as normal. There's been a lot of post work that we've implemented, consolidation of a few of the brands, etc., and technology we're looking at. So, yeah, there's probably been a little bit of a shift of increase in work, if I may say, and with travel and acquisitions and bedding them in and doing your 100-day plans. But all enjoyable, still enjoying it. That's if you're not enjoying it, you get off the bus. There's lots to do, but the biggest thing for me is making sure it's the succession, and every business needs to focus on that to ensure if you ever get run over or something happens to you, that the business you want it to continue. So succession planning has been good for us, and I'm in the middle of that, but I'm not taking my foot off the pedal. Although it'd be nice to at some point. I need to let my team fly and make their own decisions, and I've been doing that over lately of late. So yeah.
And what does so you do have a plan to at some point presumably take a full step back or a significant step back? how have you gone about planning for that? You and I have talked when we met previously about your all the stuff that you do outside of work, the charitable stuff, the horse racing, the sport, Sale and Man United being at the forefront of that. Those are all things that you're doing now. But what will life look like, do you think, once you take a final step back? And how are you going to prepare for that to make sure that, like I did, you get to a sort of a cliff face and then find yourself running a million miles an hour right at the cliff face and then unfortunately falling off for a period of time. So how are you going to plan? How are you going to go about planning to make sure that life after Morson is enriching as it's been while you've been there?
I think, Matt, you've hit the nail on the head. That's a massive, important consideration. What do you do afterwards? We've all seen a number of people who sell their businesses and go around the world and do the bucket list, but so many come back bored after a while and they've had the cliff edge. So I would take the cliff edge out, is my advice. Plan for it. One of the things we do well at Sale Sharks is for the players, is to ensure there's life after rugby, whether that's through injury or through choice of retirement or coming to the end. And it is important to plan your career, and a lot of the rugby lads have to do that, and they do it well as they can, and it's great to see them get gainful employment and go on for have careers outside of rugby. And football, I don't think, does the same, necessarily, So same in business, same for yourself as an individual. I'm fortunate that I have got a lot of outside hobbies, if I may say, even though they're expensive ones, which my wife said I'll have to work till I'm 100 to pay for. So on the hobby front, I'll be taken care of and lots to do. Watch the horses, watch the rugby, watch football, etc., play a bit of golf. So that's taken care of. It's the stimulation and the mental bit of the well-being. You have to look after your own well-being and your mental to get that self-worth, because once you lose that, it's a spiral. And to get your self-worth, it's engaging in, again, you don't have to work all the hours God send because you're not in a startup again, but certainly you've got a lot of knowledge that you could use to, like what you're doing on your consultancy, doing things like podcasts. You're creating and giving opportunity to others to learn from. And so you can always apply yourself to whatever. And I always say sometimes stick to your knitting, because, again, a lot of people invest in companies after they chase the ace of wanting to be top dog in a company. No, invest in the same type of business, but let somebody else do the spade work. Sit on the board, be an non-exec. So my plans are, I've got a number of quite significant stakes in some recruitment businesses on the stock market for a few, and I'll be excited at some point maybe to help them along, but not them all. It's conflicts in interest. But no, and my property company. So there's enough business to get excited about, to keep the mind alert and give you that self-worth. And put back, I think, is my other bit. I probably missed that out. Be charitable. Everyone wants to do that, and it is sprinkle the dust where you can. And I've got, Seashell Trust. We're building a new college there, and Destination Florida. We've got a trip coming up this year, taking 80 poorly children to Florida. I'm calling my office, and then cancer research for teenage cancer research. I'm on the sort of fundraising board there. So, crikey, the charitable stuff keeps me busy as well.
I can well imagine. And I think you and I have talked over the years, and you've said stick to your knitting a number of times. I think people coming out of businesses that have been hugely successful, there's a danger to think that, I don't want to, I'm done with that now. I'm done with payroll now. That's part of my life that's behind me. In reality, many of us know what we know. So actually, when you try and apply some to go and look at other businesses, sometimes it can work, because I think the principles of business, looking at the financials, looking at the operations, looking at the people side and the sales side of a business, I don't think that changes necessarily. But there are nuances in recruitment, as there are in payroll, that actually you get to know over time. That's what makes you, sometimes particularly successful. So I do think I've seen people jumping from one thing, flitting from one small investment to another. They're not fully involved in the business. They put a little bit in, not enough to kind of make it so significant for them that it takes all their time, and perhaps not significant enough for the person they put it with to feel like, oh, we're wedded to this person. So yeah, I think you've always said to me, stick to your knitting, and if you've come out of recruitment, taking some time off potentially to recharge the batteries, but then looking at similar businesses or businesses that you're going to be able to add some value to, perhaps I think is something I've picked up from you over the years.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's my view. But the flip side is your view as well, which I do agree with. Is you've built up a good tool set. You know, the applications of how you go and talk to a bank manager and how you refinance, how you think of the financial structure of your business, to your sales, is applicable and is transferable to other businesses that need help and support in those areas. So, yes, I always say stick to my knitting, but it also could be an opportunity to just try something else as well. Why not? So I'm not saying necessarily it's the be and end all, but I think all I would say is that most people who've been successful when they've gone around again, it's been really sticking to the business areas they've known or akin to it, rather than going off on a tangent. Of the stories of I lost a lot of money on this and I knew.
Yeah.
It's you plan, which leads me to anyone. It's important to message as to how you invest, because when you do get money, for a lot of people, and it can be life changing or not life changing. It's what do you do with it. It's another area. Going back to your point we just made, you've never had that to be an investment manager. It's not your job. Your job's running a business in your field, and that is as important as anything to make sure you have a balanced portfolio. It's not all eggs in one basket, and equally, it's not even equally. You don't want to just put your money in the bank when it's not working. So, choosing your biggest decision will be choosing the advisors and people you're going to lean on to invest your money that you've worked damned hard to earn. And that is the biggest thing that people forget about and maybe cut corners on. I would say make sure you beauty parade, feel comfortable, do your DG, don't rush into it. It's all right to have it in the bank for a while, but then you may want to make it worse. And there's a scale of risk in there of what your investments are. And you'll hear every story in the world that this is going to be the greatest, like a horse bet. This is going to be the one that's going to do everything. If it's too good to be true, it usually is. And stay away from it. It's my advice. Usually is.
You mentioned money in the bank account there. Just again for the benefit of the listeners, when the money hits your bank account from the transaction last year, you remember how that felt?
Slightly weird for me in respect that because we'd completed in November, had to wait for the approval from the government for the transaction, and then it was another 4 weeks after that or 2 weeks after that.
So they're really dragging it out then, basically.
And it's a funny thing, and I've been very lucky in that I feel like I've had a good life and ability to take dividends out and secure, etc. So it wasn't that impactful for me really, and I've done deals before, obviously VC. So it was great. It was a great satisfaction to know that I was securing my family's future, and it was going into trust for my boys and stuff and my wife, and what I was getting more of a buzz about wasn't looking at any notes in a bank account, was really the fact that a lot of my colleagues who were getting some money that was for some changing their lives, and for others to be able to buy properties, pay the mortgage off, take the whole families on holiday. Those letters I got, texts, I can't tell you how proud that made me, and that was the motivation to want to do it more, to help to make sure that they've been looked after, because they've backed me, they've rolled with me, and they deserve it. And that was better feeling than seeing my own money in my bank account, if I'm being honest.
Fantastic. And again, Ged, having known you for a number of years, I know that's fair, and the people who've worked for you over the years that I've known as well, they all say just that you are very much about the people who are working for you, and you want them to do as well as you've done, and that's real credit to you, I think. Yeah,
share the dust, share the magic dust where you can, and reward those who've looked after you as well. Yeah, it's a people business I'm in. And if you don't show and have that, then why would they follow you? And why, it's great that I've got people who work for me 40, 30 years, 25 years, etc. So That's what's the USP for Morson, and that's what makes us attractive. So again, looking after your staff, you never know where they end up as well. Some of them end up as customers. So
Yeah.
if ever someone's leaving, do it in an amicable way. Don't cut corners, pennies. It'll leave a bad taste. And, so look after them. I wish United could do the same.
Well, yeah, this is probably the first year that we both can't talk about football. Actually, it's not been the best of years for either of our teams, has it? In previous years, I was more than happy to talk to you about football, but not so much this time.
No, I'm eating humble pie. So, yeah, in the office. It's strange to be here and sat here thinking where United's at, but they'll come back. Everything's got a life cycle, isn't it, in life?
And then again, maybe that's perfect segue actually, Ged. I was gonna say, looking back over, the period that you've been a bit at the helm, was there anything you do differently? But whether from a sort of a corporate sort of business structure or personally, anything you would have perhaps done differently if you had your time again?
Can't reflect on anything I'd say in business, because everything I've done, if it's not right or made a mistake, you've learned from it. And you have to have learning. You have to learn from your mistakes. You have to make mistakes. You have to have those down days to pick you up to make the good days more valuable, treasurable. The one element is back to my family is probably I sacrificed a lot, without question. I do believe that the benefits have come from that. But if I had my time again, there was some times when I wasted time outside of work that I could have spent more time with the family. So again, it's important to ensure that, I think, really going forward to anyone, to whilst you're on your journey and growing, just reflect on the people who help you as well, and spend quality time with your family, and that's your parents or your children, etc. That is the most valuable, and they're the people who support you, and they're the rocks that allow you to go and do things. So polish them. Polish the diamonds.
Yeah, I would just, to add to that, I'd be exactly the same, really. There's I was a million miles an hour. I was work probably took preference over family. More times than it didn't, which I look back on now and I think, was that the right thing for me to have done? I always go back to the fact that financially and from a kind of where we are in our lives perspective, those sacrifices have got me to where we've got to, and got the family to where we've got to. But yeah, I think there could have been a balance, and I'd like to think that anybody kind of listening or watching this with us would take potentially a step back now, because there are new ways of work. You mentioned it before. The world has changed. There perhaps isn't the expectation to be in 7 till 7. There's certainly the technology to allow you to not do that if you choose not to do it. I think sometimes it's important to do it. I think it's important to set the example, show leadership from the front. But it's not necessarily all the time, and perhaps the way that I perceived it was previously. Whether it was or not, whether people would have still followed me in the way they did without me needing to do those things, I don't know. We can't run a parallel life and go back and rerun that. But what I do know is there is options now for people in the positions that we've been in, running businesses, to take a step back and perhaps not be quite such a million miles an hour all the time, and perhaps get some more of that work-life balance into it and still achieve some fantastic things.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a good summary, really, to say, don't forget those important days, whether it's for your children at schools, sports day or whatever. Don't miss out on those. They're the ones who are looking around, seeing all the other parents there, and if theirs are not there, they remember that. I know I did when my father, rightly so, my father was running a business, and I don't look back with regret or feel sorry for myself. It was what it is, but yeah, try and do it. And equally for yourself, you gave your family the best. You were working hard to provide for them, so don't whip yourself either. I'm not whipping myself that I've not done it. It was just a question. So the work-life balance is definitely the way of the future, isn't it? And that's good if we can do it as well. And I hope everyone can.
Brilliant. Ged, just sum it up for us then. So if you're looking to build £1 billion, £2 billion turnover recruitment business in this current market, what are the 3 things you perhaps say to people watching this that want to get to a transaction, want to get an exit, or give themselves the option to do those things? I often say that the purpose of this podcast is to show people what deals what they look like, how they feel, how they come about, how it feels for the people involved. But actually, I think doing the fundamentals of business, which is what you mentioned earlier, can get you to a point where you've got a choice to have a transaction. You might not choose to do it. You might choose to stay on and run the business or pass it down through your family. What are the 3 things you would say that people should be focused on to make their business attractive, or to move it forward, to give themselves some of those options?
Yeah, I would say don't focus on just driving revenue, because that's vanity, and it's really a solid business you're trying to create and build. And sustainable earnings is probably more important. So what are your framework contracts? Can you get long-term contracts that continue to have revenue income streams? That's what people, VCs or trade buyers will look for, undoubtedly. It doesn't matter if it's not finely tuned and your overhead and you've invested. Continue to run your business even while your thoughts are on one eye's maybe on an exit. Continue to run the business as you would normal, I would say. Don't try and dress it up. Don't stop investing, because you can be treated, that can be treated separately as one-offs or extraordinary or whatever. So, and make sure you've got succession, I think, in the right team. Your right squad is paramount to any business, isn't it? The right team around you to allow you, because no one individual can drive a multi-million, billion-pound business. It relies on a squad who's rowing in the right direction. So making sure your core values are there as well. We all drive and go to work and money and earnings, etc. But think about the things you can give back. And if that makes you a little bit different, it'll attract people who want to work in this new world. People are attracted to what is it you do, but what is it you give back? So it's not as much what you make, it's what you give back. And a lot of people will follow a company on that basis, whether it's an exit for a trade buyer or VC, or the people who are going to work you want to attract you. So look at your core value, keep to those, keep honest to them, and don't force it. Everyone's got those words on the wall. Make sure everyone's living by it. That's where you want to invest. And you'll have a solid business then. That will carry on if you do get run over.
Ged, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed that chat this morning. So I really appreciate you coming. Thank you so much.
Matt, it's been a pleasure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And good luck what you're doing, son.
Thank you.